Welcome to Chat, Communications, Happenings, and Trends, with your host, Amanda Cumming, and producer, Janet Louise Meyer. Thank you for listening.
Welcome to Chat, Communications, Happenings, and Trends. On Monday morning, Donald Trump sent out a tweet. Now, this is after having Rudy Giuliani basically make his rounds on political talk shows this weekend about the presidential pardon and what a president could do, which that did include having the capacity and capability to pardon themselves. So Donald Trump stated in a tweet, as has been stated by numerous legal scholars, I don't know who they are, I have the absolute right to pardon myself. But why would I do that when I have done nothing wrong? In the meantime, the never-ending witch hunt led by 13 angry and conflicted Democrats and others continues into the midterms. So, speaking on that, first off, no, the president should never have the right to pardon himself or herself, period. And this was entertained to some extent by Bill Clinton back in 1998. There's this article by Slate, and hopefully we will have that article linked in the description below, basically where Bill Clinton, I almost said Hillary Clinton, but Bill Clinton pretty much said that he was not going to pardon himself if he were found guilty. Now, there are 3 instances in which a president can be pardoned, right? And one of those is to have his successor pardon him. So in the case of Richard Nixon, you can't be pardoned if you've been impeached. Well, he was never impeached. He resigned prior to that, and then his predecessor went and pardoned him. There are other instances in which a president can also be pardoned, right? Am I getting that right? Janet?
Yeah.
I just skimmed through the article.
Sorry. So what they were saying about, looking back on the 1998 when they were discussing this for Clinton, you can't be pardoned of impeachment, period. You can't be pardoned of impeachment. The framers of the Constitution put it that way. And it was even a law from England and stuff like that, that they wouldn't let even a king kind of pardon himself if they were found guilty of doing crimes that they'd have to be overthrown or impeached in the same way. So you couldn't do it. But what this article is saying, that that we know that the difference is why I looked up this article was because I remembered back from then about the theory that what they were going to have happen. Like, one of the thoughts was talking about, oh, well, if Clinton got impeached, then they'd have Gore pardon him because Gore would now be president. And they kind of alluded to the fact they thought Clinton could slip back in being president after that, which seemed kind of hinky to me back then. But that was, some of the discussions. So no one really actually knows whether you can be pardoned for the impeachment part. What
no one knows if you could pardon yourself as president, right?
Yeah.
Prior to being impeached.
Well, no, you can't be pardoned even by another president for impeachment. You can't be pardoned for impeachment. You can't.
Right. Prior to being impeached,
prosecution from the things that would bring you impeachment, but you can't be pardoned for impeachment. And
right.
That's what makes them quit.
So the president, and I don't even want to have this debate because I really don't think anybody should be entertaining this idea that the president can technically impeach himself, because there is there's nothing on the books or even in the laws that say he can't, and there's been no litigation against or for. I think that this could be problematic for sure if the president were to pardon himself for crimes he didn't do somehow.
And And one thing too is that they talk about is in the Constitution and how it's written. They talk about granting, and you can't grant yourself something. You have to grant it upon others. So what they were trying to say in this article back then was that he wouldn't have been able to pardon himself.
Okay,
even though Clinton did come out and say, "I'm not going to pardon myself," so he entertained the idea, but it probably couldn't have happened. So,
right.
I don't know.
Yeah, this is just, I mean, as we were kind of discussing earlier, that this just seems to be more of a move towards authoritarianism that I'm not even sure if we were even realizing that. If especially hardcore Trump supporters, I mean, could you imagine if Barack Obama said that? If he was under investigation and he sends out a tweet saying, I have the absolute right to pardon myself, but I don't need to because I'm not guilty of anything. I mean, but hypothetically, if I were guilty of something, I could pardon myself.
This also goes back to just the personality that Trump is. Like he thinks he's above everyone else. He honestly thinks he's above everyone else, and he loves the fact that I heard that I could pardon myself. I'm going to go run with that. I take this more as a threat to his the people that are against him. Like ha, you could do that, but you can't get me. You can't get me because I could pardon myself because now all these people, like one probably Giuliani, told me that I could. And he always says all these people, and it always goes back to one person that tells him this stuff. I don't know why he thinks one person is all these people, but besides that.
Okay, so I don't know, and this is again still entertaining that thought. Even if he pardons himself, like let's say he's guilty. Okay, let's just get that out of the way. He's guilty. And he pardons himself. So he grants the power of pardon unto himself, even though in this particular article, I'm sure they've had legal scholars say that no, you can't grant yourself, it's granted onto someone else. But there's, so he said, unto me, I grant the power of pardon because I am pardoning myself. And then why couldn't impeachment proceedings still happen?
I mean, I think they would have to. He literally can only pardon himself from what he can get prosecuted for. So it's like really just kind of hinky. I mean, he's going to try to pardon himself. I'm sure. He's going to try everything he can. But I mean, I don't think. I mean, honestly, it is not something that the Constitution wasn't any of the meaning. They didn't want anyone to have this absolute power to do this stuff. They were very careful in how they worded the things about pardoning because of that. And
this was one of the areas of the Constitution that the founding fathers, some of them took issue with, and it ended up being a compromise because some of them did not want the president to have the power to pardon. And this was one of those compromises to get other things into the doctrine or into the Constitution itself, that like some people just relinquish that. Well, since we've had this power to pardon from other kings in our monarchy, then sure, it seems like an acceptable practice. I don't think they ever anticipated that the president would try to use it on himself. But this is where we are in a country right now. I mean, the Clinton era did set the stage for it, if not, earlier than that, at least entertaining the thought. And then now it's the absolute thing that can't absolutely 100% happen with absolutely any debate or actual legal scholars to come in and tell me otherwise, and to damn with everything else because I'm above the law. If we have anybody above the law, we have no fucking laws, is what it comes down to.
No, you're absolutely right. We can't allow, us as a country can't allow one person. I mean, we're already giving the president so much freaking power in the last 20, 40 years. It's slowly going more and more power into just the president's hand. And they also didn't want him to have power over the Congress either, and it seems like it's going that way too. It's just, it's crazy. They can't. I don't know. I don't think that it would stand. I think that if it came down to that, I don't know what will happen in this country. If it came down to that, I really don't know.
I mean, you're going to have probably a vast majority of people outraged by it, because again, the majority of the country probably agrees with us on many issues, including this one, that the president shouldn't have the power to pardon himself. And then if he does, I could imagine there's going to be a huge outcry. But will Congress do anything about it? The thing is that he needs to pardon himself fast, because if 2018 flips in the House, I think that the Democrats have basically assured that they're going to start impeachment proceedings. And especially if like all this evidence comes out and this from Mueller's investigation, linking Donald Trump and his associates to whatever has happened, whether it's money laundering, which he shouldn't be doing anyways, and that should be illegal. But the rich live on a different legal system than everybody else. That aside, I think they pretty much assured that. Now, will they, if there's no evidence? I hope not, but I can't tell with these, with like Nancy Pelosi and her horde, to be perfectly honest. They make a lot of fucking threats. And then they make a lot of threats to basically focus off of other things, other shit that they should be actually doing for the American people, like assuring that everybody not only has access to healthcare, but has healthcare and can afford what they have. In addition, they should be assuring that everybody has clean water, not access to clean water, because I guess you can buy fucking bottled water if you so desire and you can afford it, but actually have clean water coming out of the tap. But instead, they are focusing on impeachment and Russia and Donald Trump. And so will they follow through? I doubt it. Now, if there's evidence, possibly. And I mean, because the Congress is so corrupt as it is. And they have continually relinquished power to the president. Here's the thing, if they think that Donald Trump shouldn't be trusted, right? That he did all of these things for Russia and he's basically making, backdoor deals with Russia. If the Democrats actually believe this, then why did they give him more power to spy on U.S. citizens? Why? I would have been like, no, I'm not giving him any more power because he can't be trusted.
I feel like every time that they give him more power and it's the Democrats doing this or helping with it, I think they all have stars in their eyes, like, oh, like for the next president, that is a Democrat. They want them to have the power too. They don't want to take it away. They don't want that. They kind of like the idea of them having more power. That's what I mean, I don't know. That's just one theory I can think of, is that there's enough of them in Congress that, want to be president someday, or at least serve higher up in a presidency, that they will allow this crap. And they're
just pretending, they're authoritarian by nature. That's what centrists are. So what do authoritarians like? Strongmen. What is Donald Trump?
Strongman.
Exactly. And so they're going to approve of that behavior. But then in public, they'll say, this is probably that public-private debate that Hillary Clinton tried to bullshit through. Remember this? Like, that was my private life, but my public life, I believe this. But my private life, I believe this. It's like, no, you do what your private life tells you to do the majority of the time when you're voting for Congress and things like that. Because your private life does like those kickbacks from the defense contractors. Your private life doesn't like same-sex marriage, for instance, because she evolved in all of like 2010 or something like that. I mean, the majority of the country was like, yeah, maybe, we should probably grant marriage rights to the LGBTQ plus community, but she had to wait until 2010 to kind of see where public polling was. You think somebody that believes that strongly in their private life against something or for something, that they would actually advocate for what their public life persona wants? No.
I had a problem with the whole private and public thing anyways, because that shouldn't be in her politics, her private and her public and all that life. She's supposed to be there for her constituents. So she's supposed to be representing her people. And if her people believe this, it should have nothing to do with her public or her private life. She should be fighting for that for the majority of the people that she's serving wants this. That's what she should be fighting for. And that's what I say to that anyways from the get-go.
I mean, yeah, I mean, that's kind of the debate. You can have a private life, right? But how much do you serve the will of your private life over the will of your public life? And from all indication from her, it seems like she would be willing to serve her private interests over her public interests. And that's exactly the case with a lot of politicians that you see. They tend to fall back on their private interests, like people like Joe Manchin. People voted for him thinking they were getting a Democrat and they got a fucking Republican. And, you know, it's atrocious. It's really there. This is kind of the lie that we've been told about having a two-party system, because we don't have a two-party system. We don't. I mean, it's either right-wing, like super right-wing, or let me shove down a right-wing, non-super right-wing person down your throat, not as right-wing. And then you're going to call people like Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama fucking socialists? Are you fucking kidding me? You are such a dishonest actor if you going to try to tell me that he was a socialist. Like, first of all, you should not be saying anything about politics. You have no right if you can't even tell the difference between neoliberal and socialism. You can't tell that distinction. You have no business telling me anything about politics whatsoever. And you probably shouldn't be fucking voting. But, you know, we live in a free country where people as unintelligent as you get the right to vote. Even though you're a stupid ass motherfucker, you have that right. So you better fucking learn what the difference is between all of these systems before you fucking vote. It pisses me off so much. And then they're going to tell me that Donald Trump is some sort of moral human being that isn't that's actually anti-authoritarian, that is draining his swamp. No, he's a super corporatist guy that wanted to fit in with all of these rich people and is finally fitting in because he's serving them, right? He's serving their interests now with all those tax breaks and those nice defense contracts that are basically killing people. And you're going to tell me he's draining the fucking swamp when he has people like Steve Mnuchin running the Treasury Department, and wasn't he the vice president of fucking Goldman Sachs? What is wrong with you? Like, what type of brain processes that and makes sense of that to where it makes any type of sense whatsoever? Like, I don't know. I don't know what type of brain can possibly do that to where that makes any logical sense whatsoever. And here we are, I would argue, on the absolute probably leftist of the spectrum, trying to like speak reason to people when there is none. There is no reasoning. It's just, he matches my ideology better. Or Hillary Clinton, matches my ideology better. Okay, great. Do you have any fucking criticism as to what's wrong with that? Like, I was telling somebody over the weekend, of course, in this like huge Twitter feud that just wouldn't seem to die. I mean, it was made like a month or two ago, this thread. It was a Follow Friday. And then these centrists jumped into that Follow Friday. And anyways, my point is that they always stopped at Clinton. Once you got a female president in, everything was good for them. It didn't serve working families. Who cares, right? It didn't bother them. Didn't really serve women right because she had a vice president who was arguably and very, very, very publicly facing against abortion. But that's okay because it didn't bother them. They could get abortion wherever they wanted to if they needed, because they probably had the money to do so. Okay. So it always stopped at Clinton. and they're saying, well, you worship Bernie Sanders or whatever. I'm like, no. If there was somebody that was more progressive than Bernie Sanders, I'm going to take them. I'm going to vote for him or her. Because it never stopped at Bernie Sanders for me. It should get better from there. But with you guys, it always stopped at Clinton. It's that whole like thing of, oh, if Clinton had been elected, I would be eating brunch right now instead. Well, fuck you. Because the country was doing so well before and would be doing so well under Clinton. Seriously, when she would have just been doing much of the same as Obama. Like, you don't deserve to say that you're for anybody's rights or for worker rights or immigration rights or women's rights, because it stopped at Clinton, and Clinton was not good enough.
The biggest thing to do in a thread like that is ask them, okay, so what policies don't you like? Do you not like the fact that people would get health care? Do you not like the fact that, your kid would be able to go to college for free? I mean, what is it that, the policies that you're against? Like, all they have to say against, it's always, oh, you get the centrist and the right telling you that the Nazis were a socialist party, which they weren't. And then you have them coming down on Bernie for the weirdest thing. Oh, Jane Sanders was a big to-do this weekend. I don't know. They were all mad at her for what did she say? Something about the Democratic Party, and they just got all. So I was watching a lot of that. So here they are, all piling on, calling her all these horrible names, basically on the way she looks and not the person that she is and what she talks about. And these are the centrists. These are the ones that like, why are you talking about Hillary that way? Or like all that. Like,
you also support women no matter who they are.
Yeah. And another, like, Nina wore red to a thing. And one person wrote, oh, she's wearing red. Like, she's wearing red, like, oh, let's put that with like socialism or Russia or the Republicans, because that's red, we're blue, right? And you're telling me Hillary never wore red? Oh yeah, I found a million pictures of Hillary wearing red. I found pictures of Michelle wearing red. I mean, it's like seriously, these are the complaints they have. They have nothing on policy. They don't care about the policies, and that's the problem.
Right. And I feel like that's kind of why we're in the position that we are. I mean, because one, you've got a whole group of people that just ignored everything and continues to ignore everything, saying like the country was fine beforehand. We can only go back to Obama. On the other end, you have a part of the country that is so angry at what they've been through and feel so neglected and so ignored that a strong man was appealing to them. And in fact, you have probably centrists flipping their votes. I saw this in that study that we reported on last week about centrism being the least likely to support free and fair elections and so on and so forth. It said in that article that every strongman in history found favor with centrists. That's how they came into power. And so who were the centrists that quote unquote flipped their vote? Now I understand that's a terrible term to use because that's assuming a vote was promised in the first place, right? So those centrists flipped to a strongman that was appealing to them. And now we're going to have to fight on the super left on two fronts. We have to fight those centrists that don't think that they're Republican and believe that they're progressive, but are doing everything to damage progressives and progressive policies. Because again, if the country leans left as they do, they actually do support progressive policy as they do. And you've got those centrists washing out progressive voices. And so you don't have progressivism coming as much to the forefront as it should be. Then you have the Republicans on the far right that are also washing out progressivism and progressive voices. So those are two battles, that two groups of people and two different competing ideologies, but not that different, warring with one singular group of people that truly do represent a lot, and if not the majority of the country. But again, people don't understand and don't get to see those options because you have everything in the power that are controlled by both the DNC Democrats and the GOP that are going to wash out these voices. And I think I don't know if we were discussing this last week about how the Republicans actually had a more democratic process. Because again, nobody wanted Trump. The establishment Republicans abhorred Trump. They did not want him, but they allowed the process to be, and he was the one that got the nomination. And now our process on the Democratic side did not allow us to do that because it was anti-democratic. It was not a democratic process, and it didn't represent the will of many people that did vote or support another candidate or an alternative candidate to Hillary Clinton. So those are the options that people are given, and people always go with the more extreme option. I'm just going to tell you right now, they just do. Just because there's something in that extremity that talks to them. There is. Obama had a more populist message when he was first elected. He did. And that was very appealing to a broad section of people. And yeah, he went back on that claim. I feel like he did not do enough to help anybody, really.
And Trump's going back on his.
And Trump's going back on his claim. But again, he's doing some things that he promised. He's trying to get that wall built, and he's still advocating for that. He is deporting immigrants, even though they're not criminal immigrants. But he's redefined some terms, right? What's considered criminal? He's redefined that so that any immigrant or any immigrant's criminal. Now, I had on the report that we reported last week about the immigration situation and how the separation of families didn't apply to people seeking asylum. That has come out to be untrue, because even though he said that, they are still separating families that are seeking asylum. I just read a report about that. So you do have a redefinition of what criminal is, a redefinition of a lot of things of what is acceptable in our society to undertake, and that's very dangerous, and that does move us towards authoritarianism, especially when you have somebody like Donald Trump coming in and saying like, maybe we should have lifetime presidents. That's not what we do in the United States. We hold elections so that we don't have lifetime presidents, Donald Trump. That's how it's supposed to be, and that's what our Constitution states. Now, you'll probably redefine all that shit, and you'll be approved to do so by our Congress. It's very troubling, to say the least.
You just listened to another episode of Chat, Communications, Happenings, and Trends. Please remember to like, subscribe, and share. Also, head on over to our Patreon page at www.patreon.com/ActifyChat and help us bring more content to you by supporting us. Thank you, and keep fighting the good fight, my friends.